As I lay in the emergency room, my mother walked off with the entire medical team to check on my brother's broken bone. Part 3. By the time my father returned and saw the scene, he didn't need an explanation. He grabbed me by the collar and began to hit me without mercy. Ecclesiation, you in this house is a disaster waiting to happen. I cried and begged him to stop, but the more I cried, the more he thought I was pretending. His blows only grew harsher. My mother and my sister Victoria stood in the corner, watching with icy indifference. To them it seemed like justice, perhaps even relief, to see me beaten to death. From that day on, every time I made Miles cry, I knew it would end with their scorn, their rage, or my punishment. Over time, I learned not to fight back, not to argue, and not to even try seeking their affection. And now I was abandoned on a cold, sterile operating table. EP.4. As soon as they got home, Miles threw himself onto the couch, barely managing to say he was hungry before Victoria darted into the kitchen. She eagerly announced that she would prepare something special to show off her newly learned culinary skills. Victoria, who never lifted a finger in the kitchen, nervously scrolled through her phone for recipes, meticulously searching for the perfect healthy dish. The last thing she wanted was to upset Miles' recovery. Meanwhile, my father brought out the latest luxury gaming console, calling it a welcome home gift to celebrate Miles' miraculous survival. My mother had spent the entire morning cleaning and redecorating Miles' room. She added fresh flowers and plants, claiming the clean air would help him heal faster. Miles, lounging on the couch and casually playing games, was at the center of everyone's attention. Every small movement he made seemed to tug on the family's collective heartstrings. I followed them into the house, or at least my soul did. But this place, as familiar as it was, felt as cold as ever. The doorbell rang suddenly, interrupting their idyllic scene. When the door opened, I saw someone I could never mistake. It was my girlfriend, Helena Smith. She stepped inside, her face glowing with concern. Mr. and Mrs. Baston, I heard Miles was discharged today, so I brought some supplements to help with his recovery. Miles immediately put down his gaming console, putting on an air of bashful modesty. Thank you, Helena. I really appreciate you coming all this way. I'm already feeling much better. She smiled sweetly at him. The icy, untouchable lady she was around me melted into a soft, gentle girl in front of Miles. I stared at her, feeling a strange, unfamiliar distance between us. Then she suddenly asked, by the way, one here is Colleen. It hit me then, if she hadn't mentioned my name, they might have forgotten I ever existed. The mention of me soured my mother's mood instantly. Her expression darkened as she said, why are you even bringing up that troublemaker? He ran off after I scolded him the other day and hasn't come back since. Andy, it's for the best. If he likes being out there so much, he can just stay out there forever. If he dies out there, at least this house will finally have some peace. Helena quickly nodded, her tone light. That's probably for the best. If he came back, he might disturb Miles' rest. Just then, Victoria walked out with a tray of supplements and teas. So, Helena, have you thought about when you are breaking up with Colleen? You'd better act fast, or someone else might snatch up my precious little brother. Helena blushed and lowered her head shyly. I was actually planning to talk to Colleen about it today after visiting Miles. A bitter ache surged up from the depths of my soul, rising to my throat. I laughed at myself quietly, turning away from the scene. I should have been used to being unloved by now. After dinner, my mother's mood suddenly shifted. She seemed restless, pacing back and forth before retreating to her bedroom. Then she picked up her phone and began scrolling through something curious. I leaned closer to see what she was looking at. She was searching for my number. When she finally found it, she dialed over and over again, but the call always went unanswered. Frustrated, she slammed the phone down and muttered bitterly, he dares not pick up my calls now. Does he really think anyone cares about him? There was no one left to answer her calls, but then she made another call to that nurse from the hospital. Did Colin tell you what kind of stunt he's trying to pull now? Tell him this. Stop being so shameless and get back here to apologize to his brother. If he does, I might let him come home again. On the other end, the nurse Camilla hesitated for a moment before responding, her voice trembling slightly. Director, Colin passed away a week ago. The accident ruptured his heart, but at the time all the doctors were in Miles' room. There was no one left to perform surgery on him.